It's time to open our eyes to a bright and promising future. We'll rise to the call of the times and create a stronger tomorrow. Let's start to make a difference, teaching everyone to learn through science, health and technology. We will share our expertise. By promoting knowledge and policies, we can build a better world. Let us take a stand for our visions alone, bringing future west for the people to grow in a life filled with happiness and dream. Here at Symphia, building the future is our legacy. We'll achieve our goals through partnership, creating opportunities. By working hand in hand, we can accomplish all our dreams. For a better quality of life is now within our reach. Let us take a stand for our visions of hope, making future plans for the people to grow in a life filled with happiness and glee. Here at Symphia, building
According to Merriam-Webster, empowerment is the act or action of empowering someone or something, the granting of the power, right, or authority to perform various acts or duties. While Oxford Dictionary defines empowerment as the act of giving somebody more control over their own life or the situation they are in. Assalamualaikum, a very good day and a huge welcome to all of our participants for today's webinar organized by Senior Sen entitled Parent Empowerment on Remote Learning for Students with Disabilities. Selamat datang and welcome again. My name is Suhaila Muhammad, Program Associate of Senior Sen, and I am your MC for today. Now, here is the agenda for this webinar. We shall start today's session with Madam Shahida from Parent and Interventionist Society of Malaysia, followed by Dr. Kanit Pamani from the Ministry of Education, Thailand, and last but definitely not least, Mr. David Lester from Nissai Group, United Kingdom. I believe it is 3 a.m. there in the UK now. To all our esteemed speakers, thank you for joining us. Now, dear participants, parents are the primary concern when it comes to the well-being and betterment of their children while raising them, preventing them from any harm, correcting them in different ways from their mistakes, and also increasing their confidence level and boosting up the morale of children, creating an environment of harmony and peace. It has believed that children learn more from their parents, and evidence shows that parenting empowerment can be a powerful tool to support the well-being of children and their families. Therefore, in this webinar, we want to share insights on how parents can be empowered, particularly in remote learning for their children. That said, I am absolutely thrilled to start with today's webinar, and I hope all of you are too. But before that, allow me to thank the Head of Division of Training and Consultation of Senior Sen for her great effort and wonderful support for today's webinar. Thank you, Madam Monisha Matsha. Also, thank you to the amazing team who are also with me today from Training and Consultation Division, Madam Mastura, Mr. Ikram, Madam Harisha, as well as the Strategic Communication Unit of Senior Sen, Mr. Shabil, Mr. Ashraf, Mr. Eddie, who have been pouring their hearts out for today's webinar. Now, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce a person whose dedication and commitment for 26 years towards education, special educational needs, and the community with special needs that are highly admirable, not just among us here in Malaysia, but known among senior member countries as well. Today's webinar could not have been materialized if it had not been for her amazing support. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome the Director of Senior Sen Malaysia, Dr. Hajah Hanani Harun Rasid, to deliver her welcoming remarks. Please give a huge round of a virtual applause for Dr. Hanani. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum and good day, everyone. Thank you, Ms. MC, Senior Sen Organizing Committee. Our speakers for today, Mr. David Lester, Group Learning Services, Nissai Group, United Kingdom, Dr. Kanit Pamani, Educator, Ministry of Education, Thailand, and Madam Siti Shahidah binti Saleh, President of Parents and Interventionist Society, Genius Kurnia, MOE Malaysia, to all teachers, parents, guardians, NGOs, and institutions from SIMEO member countries and SIMEO Sen Organizing Committee. It is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar titled Parent Empowerment on Remote Learning for Students with Disabilities. I would like to congratulate each of you for your dedication and effort to join today's webinar. For your information, SIMEO Sen is committed in actively promoting teachers' capacity building, increasing awareness, and fostering collaborative efforts among countries, institutions, and non-profit organizations for the benefit of the special education community. We are also committed to empower parents of special educational needs students through trainings. This webinar is an example of Simiosen's efforts in empowering parents with necessary knowledge and skills to support their children, especially during pandemic. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the entire global population. The pandemic has caused school closures, physical distancing, and loss of familiar environments, which now we call a new normal. In this regard, the face-to-face learning process can no longer take place. Therefore, all schools have turned to home-based learning. Since home-based learning is performed remotely, parents are needed to play a significant role in supporting and supervising the learning process at home. However, school-based learning poses challenges to the parents as they need to take over the teacher's role at home. For example, for parents who are working from home and simultaneously taking responsibility in supervising their children's learning process, they are experiencing time constraints in balancing work and to supervise their children. The challenges are most significant among parents with children with disabilities which require constant supervision. In response, Simiosen would like to initiate a platform for parents, teachers, guardians, NGOs, and institutions to discuss and gain knowledge regarding empowering remote learning for students with disabilities. Jim Rohn once said, don't let your learning lead to knowledge, lead your learning to action. I hope this webinar will help all parents, guardians, and teachers in making sure the children's learning process achieves its goals despite using the different approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, I would like to express our utmost appreciation to Nissai Group for their generous sponsorship of today's webinar. Nissai Group has initiated innovative education programs that provide a quality education for all levels of education. I would like to applaud their effort in promoting the inclusiveness of education. Your support means the world to us and is very much appreciated. Thank you very much, Nissai Group. And to all speakers, thank you for your time and commitment in ensuring this webinar is a success. I believe the knowledge sharing by all the speakers will give fruitful insights and knowledge on the parent empowerment on remote learning and will be a learning curve for all. I am also happy to share that we have already started our pre-conference event for the 4th ICSE 2021 on 17th September. To those who already registered in our conference, feel free to browse through all contents and materials in the conference platform and get engaged with the presenters, exhibitors, and participants from all over the world. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope all of you will enjoy the session. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Dr. Hanani, for your inspiring remarks. Loving the quote you shared, Doctor. Okay, now we shall proceed with the photo session. Let us capture these beautiful moments with all of you here today. I hope the IT team is ready. Okay, everybody, please turn on your camera. All the participants here, we want to capture all of your beautiful faces and smiles. Okay, let me check, has everyone turned on their camera? We have so many from Philippines joining us today. Thank you for joining. Okay, is the ICT team ready? Okay, let's take a picture now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, next one. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and last one. Okay, for fun, let's do freestyle, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Thank you. Okay, now, allow me to share the briefing for today's webinar. Okay, due to time limitation, the moderator will only choose a few questions for the speakers to answer. Therefore, we highly encourage that you wait until the speakers have completed their presentation in case the answer to your inquiries have already been mentioned during the presentation. In your question, please state your name, your institution or organization, who is the question addressed to, and followed by your question. For example, hi, my name is Suhaila from Sen, and I would like to ask Dr. Hanani a question. My question is, John. The link to the evaluation form will be shared via chat box during the webinar. Webinar certificate will only be sent to participants who have completed the evaluation questions. And the e-certificates will be sent to participants through email that has been registered within 14 working days. If you need further assistance, please email us at webinar@simusen.org. And for more updates, do follow us on our social media, our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Moving on. Now, I would like to introduce our moderator to take over today's session, Mr. Zulkarnain Abdul Wahab. He is the head of division for the Research and Innovation Division of Simusen based in Melaka, Malaysia. Leading the division, his role, among others, are to align the center's role and focus in conducting impact researches, focusing on current issues, as well as incorporating innovation in special education. Prior to the current post, he also had the privilege to serve as the training coordinator for the Training and Consultation Division, where he assisted and coordinated capacity building programs for special education teachers across the 11 senior member countries. Now, it is our greatest pleasure to welcome Mr. Zulkarnain Abdul Wahab. Mr. Zulkarnain, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Suhaila. Good morning, Yang Bahagia Datuk, Professor, Doctor, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. On behalf of Senior Regional Center for Special Educational Needs, SIMUSEN, I would like to welcome all parents, educators, education officers, and stakeholders to our webinar with the title Parent Empowerment on Remote Learning for Students with Disabilities. My name is Zulkarnain and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Selamat datang, welcome, Maligayang Pagating, Sawasdi, Chomrupso, Sebaidi, Sinchau, Minggelaba. As been mentioned by Dr. Hajah Hanani Harun Rasid, we are looking for means and ways to assist parents in assuming some of the role of teachers at home while balancing work and the responsibility for the education of their children. We are delighted and honored to have with us here today 3 esteemed speakers who will be sharing their insights on the topic. Allow me to introduce to the audience who are our speakers. Upon mentioning your name, may I invite our speakers to introduce yourself to our audience and share with us perhaps a bit of your work and where you are located. We will start with Puan Siti Syahidah Saleh. Puan Siti.
Hi. Okay. Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning. I hope everyone is in good health. Thanks to SIMUSEN for having me right here. And just briefly about me, my name is Siti Syahidah binti Salih, you can call me Siti. I am from Shah Alam, Malaysia. I am my son Ryan. I am Ryan mom, and I am the president of Parents and Intervention Society, also known as PB at Genius Kunya, which is Genius Kunya is an early intervention center for children with autism in Malaysia. My son is 7 years old, autistic child. He is partly verbal and currently still on therapy.
Okay, thank you, Puan Siti Syahidah, for the introduction. Next, can we have Dr. Kanit Pamani to share a bit about yourself?
Good morning. I am Kanit Pamani, now working at the Bureau of Special Education, Ministry of Education in Thailand. So firstly, I would like to thank Simil Sen for having me today for the pre-conference to share the experience and situation in Thailand. So in addition to working full-time, I also work with the NGO to support the student with disability in Thailand, in particular for those who have visual impairment. It's called the Christian Foundation for the Blind in Thailand. So I'm very happy to contribute to the webinar today, and hopefully I will learn from other speakers too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kanit Pamani. May I now invite Mr. Lester. Mr. Lester?
Good morning from the UK. My name is David Lester. I'm the Group Learning Services Director for Nissai. First, I'd like to thank Semio Sen for inviting myself to talk, but also for arranging this event and the wider conference. Nissai have been supporting learners with special education needs and disabilities now for over 25 years. That's both within the UK and across the region. And what is pleasing to me personally, as well as being here, is seeing this increased awareness of SEN in the wider ASEAN region. So it will be good to hear people's feedback over the course of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lester, and thank you to all the three speakers. Moving on, allow me to share some reminders. Throughout the presentation, may I kindly remind that and request for only the invited speakers to turn on their microphone when presenting. We also would like to request for the audience who are currently logged on with us in Zoom to ensure your microphone is turned mute to avoid audio disruptions such as echoes and feedbacks which may interrupt the session. Thank you for your kind understanding. Audience may type your question in the chat box. Please also mention to who the question is addressed for, and our committee will identify burning question and we will share with the questions in the Q&A session later. We are fortunate to have with us here today our panel speakers which have briefly introduced themselves earlier. Our speakers are currently not only logged on from Malaysia but also from different time zones. We have Puan Siti from Malaysia, Dr. Kanit from Bangkok, Thailand, and Mr. Lester is currently in the UK, logged on at 3 o'clock in the morning. Thank you, sir. Okay, without further ado, let us move on to the main agenda. Allow me to briefly share the background of our first guest. Puan Siti Syahidah Saleh holds a bachelor degree in public relations. She is a businesswoman and currently the president of PIBI, Parents and Interventionist Society at Genius Kunya, which is a center of early intervention in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She is very active in public sharing regarding parental empowerment in autism and does charitable work around the country. She is also a mother to a child with autism. We will hear more about Puan Siti Syahidah and her son in a bit. Okay, Puan Siti Syahidah, when did you learn about your child's, perhaps you can share a bit about your background, your work, perhaps a bit about your family, and how do you came about to know about your son's condition? Please.
Okay, hi. Well, I am full-time business. I'm doing business, and about my family, I'm a single mother. I'm currently staying with my mom, and I have two children. One Ryan, which is he is autism now, 7 years old, and the other kids is Aiden, 5 years old right now. So when I did find out about Ryan being diagnosed as autism, right? Okay, well, it started when I bring Ryan to a pediatrician for a regular checkup. And at that time, Ryan is watching YouTube. The pediatrician called his name a few times, but no response, and not even looking at the doctor's eyes, and keep ignoring what doctor shows him to get his attention, but he's still ignoring. So at that time, the pediatrician asked me if Ryan is autism, because there are some traits in him, and said no, maybe he just too excited to watch YouTube, to watch new cartoon, and he advised to get further consultation. At that time, I was still in denial. I keep saying that maybe Ryan is a normal kid like other kid, but being a mom, there's an inner me to tell me to do some research about autism. So based on my own research, I found out that Ryan at that time, 3 years old, is developmental delay, which is he did not responding to his name, avoiding eye contact, not smile even you are smiling at him, getting very upset. And then if he do not like certain taste, smell, sound, and then he got this repetitive movement, such as flicking his fingers, rocking his body. He is picky eater and non-verbal. So like for instance, if he wants something, let's say he wants to eat, he will pull my hand to get whatever he wants. So as a first time mother, I thought that is a normal thing. Maybe he is late talker. He will be okay if he reach at certain age. But after read some books and did my research, so so my instinct tell me that maybe he is autism. So in 2017, I bring Ryan to a developmental pediatrician, and they did some examination and interview me regarding Ryan's health condition and development. So after a few weeks, the diagnosis really shocked me, and it's confirmed that Ryan is autism. So the journey begins. When I start bringing Ryan for a therapy, and then in 2019, he entered Jenis Kunia for his early intervention program over there. Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Apologies for the mute. Okay, from the moment you notice that Ryan has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, what changes? What are the family acceptance and during that moment, and how about now? So can you share a bit how the acceptance from the family, from the friends, and also from your neighbors? Do they treat Ryan still the same way before and now? Please. Fine. You're muted.
Yeah, you mean okay. So what have I done the moment that my child being diagnosed? So can we proceed to the OT slide, please? Okay. So that's a quote says that autism doesn't come with a manual, but it comes with the parents who will never give up. So the important first step that I did after receiving my son diagnosis, I started to educate myself about what is autism. So back in 2017, I started searching and gather information about what is autism to increase my knowledge about my son's condition and how to help him. So I attend many parenting workshop, webinars, taking online learning. So I would like to suggest iCurnia. iCurnia is the online platform that you can get free online course that provide training, and there is so many e-workshop that helps you to understand regarding about your child situation and how you can help your child to do intervention at home. So back to my story. We started with OT, and 5 months after that we started with speech therapy. Other than that, I continuously seeking and advice with the developmental pediatrician every month and work closely with the therapist. So I apply many strategies to help Ryan, especially how to handle his meltdown. So there's a slide about visual aids. Okay, so I did visual aids to help him comply with simple instruction because he does not understand verbal instruction at that time. So every time I give him an instruction, I need to model and I need to prompt him. So, and then there's a first and then slides. Can we proceed? Okay, and then I made a visual schedule first and then. Maybe for some of you, this is the method that to help Ryan with transition. For instance, first play, then table task. So it will give him more understanding about his transition and routine. Besides that, there's a reward chart. Reward chart is to maintain his good behavior because before this he is tantrum, always throwing a tantrum. Okay, and then at the age of 4, can we proceed to the next slide? Okay, at the age of 4, Ryan does not have ability to walk, so most of the time either I have to carry him or I bring a car seat. So I brought him for a sand therapy and aqua therapy. These activities helps him to stimulate his gross motor and strengthen his leg. So can we move to the next slide, the Genius Kunia slide? Okay. In 2019, when my son enrolled at Genius Kunia, over there we only get 3-hour session per week. So the rest of the week I need to work on stimulation activity session at home, so to make sure that he is continuously get the input of the therapy. So with the advice of the interventionist, we work together to build strategies to help Ryan in his daily routine, communication, behavior, and sensory. And that's a PACS slide. So PACS is an aid for Ryan to communicate. So it is to improve communication skills but still continue his speech therapy. So he started PACS at stage 1 and now he is stage 4. So during this period, he is progressing a lot in communicating to me. Like he started to ask verbally what he wants consistently. About how my family members and friends support me. At first, me myself, I'm struggling to accept the truth that and I'm still denying at that time. As I learn a lot about autism, and I share with my family members, I share with my mom. They started to understand that the differences that we may face. So I'm a single parent, and as a parent, I need to have a good support system. So I'm lucky that my mother and my siblings give moral support for us. And I'm a bit surprised that my siblings did research regarding autism and try to understand Ryan condition. So like for instance, like before the MCO, if you had any family gathering, my family will make sure that there is a special room dedicated to Ryan so that he feels calmer if there is many people around, or if there is loud sound, if there is an feast. And then if we travel or going back to my hometown, my family will make sure that his basic needs are ready, like medication, toys, foods. Okay, sometimes um, Ryan takes time to do something, like he loves to explore something or play sand or play toys. It takes time. So they understand him and give him time to explore. And for me, it is very important because this will help my child to cope with the unique aspects of his disorder. Whenever I'm lost, my family members will be a great listener and a problem solver. So this has created positive atmosphere. This positivity helps me learn how to manage my feelings when faced with challenges of raising my son.
Oh, thank you, Puan Siti Shahidah. Family is indeed important and a strong support system as well. So okay, you mentioned that you are now a single mother, and how about work? How about your daily routine? So from the moment Ryan being diagnosed and now, how do you juggle up between your responsibility for Ryan and for the other sibling as also for work?
It's not easy. Being a mother who is raising an autistic child, I don't have any fixed routine. I will go with the flow, and I prioritize Ryan's schedule first, as he might find any tremendous changing, and transition is difficult for him to cope with. So he might eat, he might sleep or bath the same way every day. So Ryan is very structured person. So I need to go on his way to build my routine as well. So I will identify each task for Ryan to complete and create schedule for him. So I use visual schedule as he comply with visual cues. So usually my daily routine during the lockdown is we start with breakfast, and after that we will have our morning walk within the neighborhood early in the morning at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, because at that time there are not so many people around, and we try to avoid any transmission of the viruses. And I have to remind my child that to avoid touch any surface in the public, so and then clean hands after any activities. So other than that, he loved to cycle inside the compound for about 30 minutes. So these activities will help him to feel calm and focus when doing his table tasks. So these activities, the physical activities, is very important to me to make sure that he is calm for the rest of the day. So let's say if I have a meeting and other obligation, I will give him a free time activity. Ryan's love to the coloring activity. So it's like a stress relief activity for him. So whenever I need to attend my job, so I will give him a free playtime, which is coloring worksheet. The good thing about coloring is he managed to improve pencil grip and coloring skill, as we know that the kids needs to color between the lines and follow the right color. So can we proceed to the free time activity coloring slide? That's a slide. Can we proceed?
Next slide, please.
Yeah, next slide. Is there okay. As you can see, this is the first picture before I introduce him how to color. As you can see, he just scribble without color in lines, and then he just use whatever color that he likes. While the second picture is where he is improving the coloring skills. This is last year, and then he used the right color for the picture, and he practiced every day as a free time activity, and luckily he gets the first place in coloring contest. So this is something value added for Ryan. So I just support him, whatever his interest, and just give him endless support. So usually after completing my work tasks, lunch, and pray, so that the evening I will get back to them to do some obstacle course, water play, or helps Ryan to complete worksheet or schoolwork. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Puan Siti again. Of course, with all the routines, with all the step by step that you need to do with Ryan, there comes challenges. What are the most challenging, moment that you face with Ryan, with your son? Can you share with us?
The most challenges, as we know, autism spectrum disorder refers to a set of related conditions that affect social interaction, communication, and behavior. So the impact can range from mild to severe. So in my case, the severe impact appears in early childhood, that is before Ryan get his early intervention, which is the challenging behavior comes from his sensory overloading. So I remember when he unable to cope, when I bring him for one event that has loud sound and bright lights, he started to cry non-stop and cover his ears. So he started to kick me and roll on the floor where I sees him in a weird face. So I tried to comfort him and managed to bring him out from the place and try to comfort him in the car. But one more time, he started to kick me, and it gave me difficulty to handle him, and he was having a meltdown for almost an hour. So that's the most challenging situation that I ever faced with Ryan. Same goes when I bring Ryan to shopping mall where he can tolerate with loud music and people around. He will started throwing a tantrum for this. So from that time, I never bring him to a shopping mall until we start the early intervention, and where he can blend the environment that he is in. So I use positive behavioral support to handle Ryan to help him in his struggle environment, and with social story to help Ryan better understanding what he will be faced throughout the day. And then the challenges part, I believe that many of special needs parents face is picky eater, as one of the autism traits, right? So for Ryan, he avoids any soft texture food and rice. So he rejected more food at the beginning and eats specific texture or flavor. He eats only the foods that are similar and not more 5 types of food. So can you imagine that? So what I did is I offer him a small bite or taste, but need to consistent and repetitively. And then, for example, Ryan do not like bread at first. So what I did is I toast them because Ryan loved the crunchy texture. So for Ryan, he totally rejects rice and protein like chicken. So what I do is I blend it and mix it together to make chicken nuggets, and he can accept the texture. Just find out whatever texture that your son like to eat, then we may like change to the different types of food. Until now, Ryan is still struggling to eat some types of texture and taste. But I am thankful because now he eats wider range of foods than before. So now, for example, he eats noodles, pasta, pizza, cookies, cakes, but he still reject the soft texture. So that's the challenges think about Ryan now. So
Okay.
for fruits, I change the texture to do like smoothies or ice lolly. For vegetables, I just blend carrot or mix it with the other fruits. So for me, we need to be extra creative and fun in order to feed a picky eater and don't give up. If he wants to eat, um, sometimes he wants to eat the same food for entire week as long as he is in the good health, so that's fine. Mhm.
Really an eye opener. Okay. How, I mean, we are now having the lockdown with the pandemic. How does Ryan adapt to the current situation, and perhaps the challenges you face during the lockdown, not being able to go out for the
Mm.
support session? Maybe you could share with us a bit.
Challenges I face during the remote learning, right?
Yes, during
Uh-huh.
pandemic, yeah, remote learning.
During okay, can we move to social story slides? Okay, during the pandemic, it's hard to get Ryan wear his face mask, understanding the social distance, and of course, to understand why he needs to distant learning, why he have to stay away from school and learn at home. So this is the new norms for the education system and for the student with special needs. Remote learning present unique challenges. So starting last year, for remote learning, Ryan got trouble to adapt in learning in different ways. He got disrupted with the new educational routine and also home routine, which means he is confused. Which one is a task and which one is a normal routine at home? So I made him a social story to explain why we have to stay at home. And I prepare a visual schedule and I work hands-on with him so that he understand more of his routine. So I did repetitively to ensure that he is understood the transition and the routine changing. So like many families, I said before, I have to work from home, and also I have challenges in helping Ryan with his schoolwork. Most of the tasks that teacher are giving him in PDF form. So I need to help Ryan to complete his task and explain to him to complete his schoolwork. So there are certain worksheet that he can do with minimal guidance from me, and there are also a worksheet that I need to modify according to his understanding. So it requires more time and energy to work together in order to ensure to achieve the task goal. So and then the challenges when I face when the lockdown is all the bookstore are closed, and as a parent we find it's hard to get the learning materials such as art and craft supplies, and for some parents they do not have printers, laptops, or even internet signal to support. So I believe this is the challenges that many parents face. And for Ryan, at the beginning of the lockdown, he could not attend therapies, OT, speech therapy session. So we have some difficulties in order to expand his communication skill and practice. Other than that, I find that loss in social opportunities for social growth.
Okay, Puan. Perhaps maybe my last question for this session.
Mhm.
How do you allow Ryan to practice to be able to adapt to the lockdown, and
Mhm.
also how you overcome the negativity? So and also you can add on some advice for the parents out there how to face these challenges that you're having now?
Okay. Specific practice at home, of course, I do have. So there's a slide about basic living skill tasks. Can we proceed to the slide? Okay. Many says that a parent is the best therapist for autism kids, and as a mom, I need to have a good bonding with Ryan to build his skills. So during lockdown, everybody stays at home. So I give him more house chores so that he can build his living skills. The simple tasks like wipe the table, watering the plant, mopping the floor, will help him a lot. So he can comply with the verbal instruction and give and complete the task step by step. After that, I will give him reward to make him feel fun to do it. So I find that Ryan will be more calm when he did specific practice, that he understand what to do with minimal guidance and help him with visual cues. Other than that, we will have time to read books together. He loves book, but not able to read yet. So I have to read aloud for him and shows him the picture in the book and ask him what is the name of animal and so on. Indirectly, I can stimulate his communication part. During the lockdown, we do a lot of water play and sensory play. He loves to do the sensory activities. It is one way to help Ryan to manage his sensory needs. So we will do activities like bouncy chair, messy play, slimes or ice tray, sensory beans, finger painting. So these activities will give him advantages in the daily sensory diet. Yeah, this is the picture that he's having good time over there. Okay, so how did I overcome the negativity? So I will give my opinion based on the current situation. So many of us find troubles when we have to stay at home, especially when we have an autistic kids that needs brief extra attention during their learning session at home. So as we know in Malaysia, this is the third round. As we know in Malaysia, this is the third round for us. I know that people are feeling scared, people are feeling trapped, and they may project their anger towards the loved one because they do not how to cope with the anger and confusion. Some of us may be dealing with hyperactive child, and some of us are struggling with never-ending workloads. For me, it's an overwhelming situation for us. Unlike before the lockdown, we can go to travel or hanging around with friends to release our tension. But now the current situation, it is limited to do it. So for myself, I find someone or circle that is the same shoe with us. So that understand our journey. So that we can share experience, we can share journey, we can share our knowledge together, and of course sharing our problems. And I have my own circles with other mummies, and we share learning materials and activities for our kids to do at home. So and then attending any webinars also help us to boost our spirit in helping our child. So there is so many free webinars that are giving knowledge about autism and parenting webinars. So some of the parents out there may be still in denial and shame about what others think about autism. So my advice is just ignore about it, and just ignore what other people thinks about us or talk bad perspective about our child. So for instance, before this, there's some relative asking me why Ryan can't talk, why he can't listen properly to the instruction. So as a parent, we just ignore it. We only just only we as a parent, we know the ability of our child is. So just give them and the support. So my advice is just take care of your mental health. Um, it is important to engage in self-care like mindfulness or yoga. Take a me time. Take like going for a walk, take a bath, read a book, watch a Netflix. So to help you to feel good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Puan Shahidah. We have learned a lot about the ups and downs raising a child with autism. I'm sure some of our audience also can relate Puan Shahidah sharing with your own story. However, Puan Siti Shahidah determination is something to be applauded for. Congratulations, Mom, and congratulations, Ryan. Okay, let's now move on. May I introduce our second speaker, Dr. Kanit Pamani. Dr. Kanit currently works at the Bureau of Special Education, Ministry of Education, Thailand. He has earned a doctorate in education, leadership, and social justice, focusing on special education and transition services at California State University, Los Angeles. In addition to his permanent job, Dr. Kanit also works part-time as a college instructor and often being invited to be a guest speaker for national and international workshops. He also participated in a number of research projects and contribute to the activities for several non-profit organizations. May I now invite Dr. Kanit Pamani to deliver your presentation. You have 20 minutes. The floor is yours, Dr. Kanit, please.
Thank you. Again, good morning from Bangkok, Thailand. So thank you for having me today. And from the previous speakers, so I would say that Russian, he's very lucky, very lucky because, he has the super great mom. I would say that at least as the person with disability myself. So I acknowledge, the energies and devotions of the parent that they support their kids. So, and again, she is, I think, one of the best mom that, her works and experience will be great benefits for other parents or even teacher who will be helping or supporting or teaching the student with disability, as well as, encouraging the parent or working with the parent and let them know, how to support and help the kid with disabilities, not just autistic kids, but also, any kind of kid with disability. So parent is very important part of, helping student with disability being successful in their life, right? So, well, to myself, I think that my talk will focus on the situations of COVID-19 pandemic. And the thing is how, parent can support their kids in the remote learning modes. And, particularly in Thailand, I will give some example in my country, Thailand, as a person working in the Ministry of Education. So, we have acknowledged that in 21st century, so online learning mode is very essential, is very important. And I believe that in many countries, including Thailand, prior to, COVID-19 outbreak, some school, they have implemented the online learning. So, but unfortunately, for the special education centers or residential school for students with disability in Thailand, we didn't prepare, for the unexpected situation like this. So even one of my colleagues, she have proposed the we call MLS, right? So the management learning system, online learning system. She wants our school for students with disability to have some kind of system like that. So she tried my best to do that, but it's still in progress. And we have a thought that one day we will get to these situations. And again, we have done implementing the face-to-face instruction, in particular for school for the student with disability under the supervision of my department. So we have 177 schools across the countries. So when the pandemic is occurring, so it's changed. School closed, and even the Ministry of Education launched the campaign saying that stop schooling but not stop learning. So, and then what we're going to do is change the learning mode from face-to-face to online, basically. So actually, we have 5 different learning modes, but I'm focusing on remote learning, right? It's combined of many modes of learning. So with that, the student basically, they need to go back to the home, right? Being with their parents and learning from home, like us working from home. So then there are lots of things that happen at home, and definitely it's lead to the responsibilities of the parents. So there's lots of challenges that parents face during the outbreak of COVID-19 while supporting their kids. First, this is time constraints. So as we know that, if you look at the statistic, the data from UNESCO, UNICEF, World Bank, or any kind of international agencies, you will see that, many of the students with disabilities or the families and the parents living in the poverty. So I just read the news this morning, I think 2 days ago on the New York Times, even in the United States, the parents, like the student with disability in the family, like 28%, they live in the poverty or below the poverty line in the United States. So that's what that means. It means that, most of the parents, they have to work. So in general situations before the COVID-19 outbreak, I'm focusing on our school. It's boarding school, it's residential school. So basically, the parents, even in the inclusive school, so there are 2 different school or populations that we take care of. First, I will focus on the residential school. So the parent basically will bring their kids into the school, and then they just join the meeting the first day of semester, and then they will leave their kids in the school for how many months? Almost like 4 months, 5 months, and during the semesters. And then, in the spring break or summer break or in the school break, they will go back to school and bring the kids back to their home. So basically, there will be like 1 month, 4 weeks, or 2 weeks to be with their kids, to take care of their kids by their own entire day. So, but this situation, when stop schooling, so school is closed basically. So the parents have to support their kids, particularly for those who are in the residential school. They are more likely to be severe than students who attending the inclusive schools. So, which means for those who have more severe, they need more support. And then the person who's going to support them is the parents. So it's time constraints because first the parent have to work, right? And the school time is 8 o'clock or 8:30 or 9 to 2 or 9 to 4 p.m. depending on the school schedule. So, and for those who have who need more support, the parents have to reschedule themselves and make sure that they can help their kids. So it's become more complicated for those who need more support. So time constraint is the first concern that the parents face during the COVID-19 pandemic and school closure. So, this is not just, I would say, parent of student with disabilities, but parent in general, it's pretty much facing the same situation. So the second thing I want to talk about is IT skills and device, lack of skill and device of the IT. So last year, as a person who take care of the topic of COVID-19 in my department, so we did the survey. So with the 177 schools across the countries, so we have almost the 100,000 students under our supervisions. And we found that, for the student and families are willing to learning online, to use the online platform. It's just 18% who are ready, who are willing to, learning online. And when we ask their problems and challenge, most of them saying that they don't have the good enough IT devices and even skills, particularly for the parents. Like I told you that, a lot of parents, they need to work, and a lot of them, they are from poor families. And, we know that particularly for student with disabilities, they need more support. And the parent will take the essential roles. At least they need to have the IT skills, at least to help the kids, to troubleshoot any problems occur when they are learning online using IT devices. So in terms of lacking IT skills, IT devices, also another issue that, many parents and students have been facing during almost a couple of years. And together with the poor and no internet connection. So, well, I don't know for sure why, most of the residential school or boarding school for students with disabilities, they are in the other provinces, located in the rural area. Probably they might be thinking that, for those who are be able to access to the inclusive education is good for them. So they have ability to take care of themselves. So residential school or boarding school might be good for those who are unable to access to the inclusive school. So that, many families or even the students, they have no access to the internet connections or poor internet signal. So, if you matching together, like having, I don't want to say bad, but it's not good enough, the IT devices plus poor internet connection, what's going to happen? So this is not just the student, like say, parent who gonna take care of or give support to the student. So it's very challenging for the student and parents. Extended and big families. So we would know that, most of the Asian countries, particularly in Thailand. So, I think more than 60% of Thai families, they are the big or extended family. Is it good? Yeah, well, there is a good and positive and negative in terms of being extended or big family. We will see that, there are more people taking care of the student with disability when they need to stay home, learning from home. But the thing is that, being the extended family or big family, meaning that there are many kids in the family. So some of them are disabled, some of them are regular kids. So they need their space, right? So to learn online, so the student, parents, not only just to have the IT device, they do need space to be able to, fully concentrate on the online courses or teaching. So being extended or living in an extended big family, it's good to have more people to support the kid, but it's bad too. It's negative that the kids have not enough space and good environment to focusing on online learning. Inadequate knowledge in special education. This is one of the challenges of the parents that I say that, Lajin is very lucky that his mom is very dedicated to do the research, but most of the families, lots of the parents, they have not been able to access to the knowledge, to the training, webinar, online seminar or online courses that can, improve their knowledge and skill in special education. So a couple of weeks ago, I saw on the social media, in Thailand, the kids is a typical kids, but he expressed his feeling like, well, it's very totally different, learning with the parents and learning with the teachers, because in the teacher, they have the teaching techniques, strategies to engage, to help the student motivating to the learning activities, right? They will say something nicely or they have their own techniques, but the parent, even we know that they love their kids, they want the kids to learn, but the techniques and the way that they support or encourage their kid is different. And a lot of time, because like time constraints and other thing that I didn't mention on my slide is the anxiety. So because, a lot of parents is not only just working from home, but they also lose their job. So when they lose their job, it's become the mental problem, so anxiety. So when they get anxiety, so it's kind of like, it's not just they don't have enough knowledge and skills in special education, but plus, when they lose the job and then they get, anxiety. So the feeling or expression that's impacted to the kid is a little bit or more likely to be negative. So, and plus, attitudes. I found on my research a few years ago when I did my PhD, and, I interviewed the parents, and I found that, there are too many types of parents. One is that they have negative attitude toward their kids. Even they just take care of their kids when the school close or school break, just a few weeks, years, they still, get negative toward their kids, particularly in education, saying that, kids with disability, they don't need to study, they don't need to have education. So even they love their kid, they want their kids to be able to survive, to be able to live with others in the society, but they didn't acknowledge the importance of education. So for those parents, if they have the negative attitude toward education of their kids, they are more likely not to pay attention to the online learning or any educational activity during the COVID-19 outbreak that students need to stay home for the education. So those are the challenges that the parents have during the COVID-19. And also, when they don't have the good knowledge in special education or have negative attitude toward their kids or education of their kids with disabilities, and it's leading toward lack of facilitating skills. So as we know that kids with disabilities, they have individual needs, right? We call special educational needs. Students have their needs, their preference, characteristics. For those who are autism, the kid with autism, they may need more attentions. For kids with visual impairment, they need more support in terms of guiding them, or the kid with hearing impairment, they need more support on, like sign language, something like that. So again, when I did the survey last year, we found that, so lots of parents of students with hearing impairment, they don't know the sign language skills. They knew a little bit, but it's not enough to support the kids. We have the online learning modes like online and on air. We call DLTV, the distant learning TV. So it's broadcasting entire day. So basically, for the kid with hearing impairment, they can join the online. They can join the DLTV. But the thing is that, as we know that, hearing impairment kids, their sign language and written language is different. So, and there are many new sign language vocabulary, so SL vocabulary. So, and a lot of parents, they don't have that knowledge, sign language knowledge. They cannot support their children while learning online. So those are, it's not all of the challenges, but this is part of the challenges that we found during the school closure and during the outbreak of the COVID-19. So, and then, what we have done on behalf of the Ministry of Education. So next slide, please. As the level of Ministry of Education and my department, the Bureau of Special Education, what we have done. So this is the policy. The first one is a policy of the Ministry of Education. Thailand, they offer the 5 different learning modes. We call online, on air, on hand, on demand, on site. On site is a face-to-face instruction. So we can do in some locations because, when we categorize the area, based on the outbreak of COVID-19, so we categorize at the severity of the outbreak. So basically, we have 4 or 5 different severity. So for the area that's less outbreak, so the school can run on-site. So meaning that the student can go to school and study at a regular mode. So, but for school that located in the red zone or dark red zone area, so we need to do the alternative modes like online, on air, on hand, on demand. So
Dr.
basically,
Kani, sorry to interrupt. You have 3 more minutes, Dr. Kani.
Oh, this is just for this section or for 20 minutes, right? So
yeah,
almost...
so we only left about 3 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, and we have a different thing to support, like often of 5 different methods, and set up the model is called sandbox safety in school to make sure that students are safe if they have to do on site. And we work with the Ministry of Digital Economy to offer the IT device and SIM card. So again, we work with the Ministry of Public Health to make sure that the student parent get the vaccine so that they are safe. So next slide, please. This is how we're gonna support or fulfill the gaps for the remote learning. Set up the small group of the parent. This is very important and very effective. So, the teacher, they usually set up the small group for the parent using the social media, like Live, Facebook, Messenger, any social media that's it's good for the parents. And then they can close monitoring for, the student progress, and offer the alternative learning schedule for the parents, to avoid time constraints. So a lot of teachers, they do the evening teaching sessions to support the parents who have to work in the daytime. And again, using social media for daily communication is very also effective and good for the parent. Using online platform for screening and evaluation. So basically, teachers and parents, they use the online platform on social media for communications and teachings and delivering the learning material. And one of the best thing that we did is, home visits. So we schedule the home visit, and then we can, provide a technical support for those who have severe disability. And next slide, please. This is a recommendation for change. One of the most very important thing is to endorse the UDL principle in the online learning platform. So otherwise, people with disability or students with disability are not be able to fully benefit from the online learning platform. For the Ministry of Education, they have to provide the emergency plan for the unexpected situation. And one more thing I want to add is to provide a self-paced learning platform for the parents. At least they will go to learn by themselves to make sure that they have enough knowledge and skill to take care of the kids in unprecedented time. And most importantly is for the parents, they need to acknowledge their roles and responsibilities, because as a parent, they need to do their own job to support their kids. And, whatever, even in the regular situations or unprecedented time. So it's their job, responsibility, and roles to take care of the kids. So they need to acknowledge and, do their job. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanit. So Dr. Kanit shared a range of challenges faced by parents, and I'm sure all of us share the same concern and also the challenges being mentioned. And Dr. Kanit also shared the perspective from parents, families, external support, about knowledge and skills, education providers, as well as the importance of inclusive setup and the actions being taken by Ministry of Education Thailand to address these issues. Thank you, Dr. Kanit. Last but not least, may I now introduce our final speaker and the highlights for today's webinar, Mr. David Lester. Mr. David Lester has worked in the wider service sector for nearly 30 years, with the last 12 years focusing on education and supporting schools, government, teams, and parents internationally. In his 9th year at Nissai and as a Group Learning Service Director, Mr. Lester brings a wealth of knowledge and experience of the challenges facing the UK and international education and SEN sector. A key driver is providing strategies to support those learners who fall into the 4 Ds. Those learners who are displaced, disadvantaged, disengaged, and suffering with disabilities, whether they be visible or invisible. Mr. Lester has been actively involved in supporting learners with special education needs in the UK and internationally at local and government level. He brings with him knowledge of best practices from the UK for those learners who required an alternative approach to education. Through his involvement and participation in events arranged by third parties, including UNESCO and UNESCO IITE, and with a belief that everyone has the right to quality assured education, Mr. Lester has been involved in increasing international awareness of the ability to reach those learners who are hard to reach, to make education accessible to those affected by inequality, and to remove labels that hold learners of all ages back. May I now welcome Mr. David Lester to share with us your experience in providing education to learners with disabilities. Please, Mr. Lester.
Hi, and thank you for the introduction. I think for me, the last 2 speakers actually have been incredibly informative, especially hearing about Ryan and the support that he gets. So I've taken a lot from that, and hopefully I can add to that. So if we can start sharing. So as the introduction just said, my name is David Lester. I'm Group Learning Services Director for Nissai. I'm based in the UK, although we have representation in the region. We've got a number of colleagues who are joining us today in this session. What I'd like to do is give a bit of context behind Nissai, the reason we're here today, look more at empowering parents of children with special education needs and disability, and then just cover off how we do it as an organisation. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So Nissai have worked in the field of online education for 25 years, whilst in the last 18, 19 months with COVID, the awareness and acceptance of online learning has become far greater. It's something which we've been doing for a while, and we have understood the benefits of how online, when delivered in the right way, can engage those learners, children, young people and adults with special education needs. Our focus is very much on inclusivity and pathways. So not just looking at the here and now, but understanding where education and student aspirations can take them and progress onto. We have international representation across Asia. I believe we've got colleagues here today from Brunei, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and also Bangladesh and Vietnam. But then representation extends across Middle East and North Africa, as well as Europe, with our main base in the UK. Our partnerships and a lot of the work which we've been doing over the last 18 months in particular have been with organisations including UNESCO. We are in the fortunate position, a unique position of being an online provider that is approved by the UK Department of Education, which in one way is great, but we also know that we need that local knowledge, and that's where we work with local partners internationally. We are a centre of excellence for the inclusion quality mark, and inclusivity is key to the success of Nissai, but also key to the progression and development of our learners. Our classes are some of the most inclusive anywhere in the world. And we've seen growth based on longevity, consistency and sustainability. The key to what we do is the fact that whilst we talk about online learning, we're not a technology company who's trying to educate. We're an education company who uses technology to make education more accessible. Next slide, please. So there is an overriding belief that everyone has equal value and should have access to high quality education around the world. We've heard the story about Ryan this morning, and autism shouldn't be a reason why a child shouldn't be educated. Quite often we just need a different way of approaching this, and this is something which we have worked on extensively, and as well as those disabilities that you potentially can't see, we also work very much with those who have physical disability as well. Next slide, please. The key to all of this is about providing a holistic learning experience for both traditional and non-traditional learners. I saw a message come up in the chat earlier on about how COVID and how learning is as relevant to mainstream children as it is to those with SEN. And one of the things which we will be doing later on is just sharing a 5-10 minute run through of the Nissai Virtual Academy. And I think while something can be technology driven, it can also be holistic. The human interaction of the teachers, looking at development of well-being and socialization is also key, as well as the academic progress of the child. Next slide, please. So when we look at the holistic approach, it is about developing the whole child. It's about nurture and support. It's about having teachers who come with a specialism, in particular with regards to subject, but also being able to work those with learning difference. Wellbeing support can be online, but also, as we found, we have a team of individuals who support learners on a one-to-one basis. And during COVID and during the current pandemic, it's quite clear that social anxiety is increasing for those, not just with SEN, but young people who are and who would have been seen as being well-rounded individuals are struggling with the pressures that have been enforced on them. Looking at the development of knowledge is one thing, but also the progression in soft skills. And our experience and learners who we've worked with come to us quite often with a broken and checkered education background. They've maybe been in education or come out of it. They come to us with low self-esteem, low confidence. And for us to ensure engagement and ensure access to education, actually sometimes we need to work on the soft skills before we introduce the academic element. Education, both physically and also online, needs to be personalised, and we're in a very fortunate position where we look at an inclusive classroom, we can still ensure that the learning experience is personalised, whether it be through extension tasks, and just meeting those individual needs of a child. Delivering the lessons needs to be friendly, it needs to be supportive. We need to make sure that students feel safe and feel encouraged to take part in lessons. But irrespective of the barrier, we also need to make sure that we have an expectation and confidence in our students. As I say, their children can quite often be labelled. They cannot quite often be put in a box, but actually they are just children. They are all individuals, irrespective of the barrier to learning which they're possibly struggling with. They need to have aspirations, and we need to be able to encourage that. Next slide, please. So we support learning through innovative education that is accessible and affordable. We, going back to the initial, one of the earlier slides about education being accessible and everyone having equal value, a background shouldn't be a blocker to be able to access education and quality assured education at that. One of the comments from the previous speaker was about issues with infrastructure, poor internet connectivity, and considerations then need to be made on the way the delivery is carried out and the resource which is being delivered as part of that classroom. Next slide, please. So many of the people who are attending today will know this, but just to cover it off, what are special education needs? It's where a child or a young person has a special education need and disability, if they have learning difficulty or a disability that means they need special health and education support. Next slide, please. Our experience has covered teaching learners from various different backgrounds, whether we're looking at those with autism, Asperger's, attention deficit. Process delay is something which is becoming more and more common, and we have adapted our delivery method so that it can allow for that. So as well as live sessions where students are in classes with their peers, there are also recordings that they can then go back to and recap and review the lesson as it was taught. We work with many learners who struggle with chronic fatigue, those in an increasing number with social anxiety and mental health issues. This has been exacerbated during the pandemic and during COVID. We are finding many different types of mental health that's coming through. One of the challenges that we've had over in Europe, and it's been seen over in other countries, including North America, Australia, challenges with the weather, climate change. And in the last couple of months, we are seeing young people being referred to us who have a phobia of weather. And that is then coming down to looking at consequences. And this then means that they will be worried about leaving the home, will be worried about accessing education. So we have a way of working with parents and with schools to be able to make this education accessible to them, but also those with physical disability as well, whether it be hearing impairments. And we have worked closely with an organisation called Gemma Learning in Indonesia, who support learners with hearing impairment, but also additional needs as well. Next slide, please. So we see the challenges that are faced relating to special needs students and the arguments of inclusion versus isolation. I've talked about our inclusive classes, where many of our learners will possibly struggle with the mainstream environment. They then become isolated, and with local lockdowns, we've seen challenges of children not being able to get out. Identifying consistent and proven solutions to engage hard to reach learners is also difficult, especially when we're looking at learners in possibly more remote areas rather than urban and city centres. Identifying teachers who have the specialism and have the skills to support children with SEN. Specialised services to meet specific needs. I remember speaking to a senior leader in a school once who said, well, why don't you take all your autistic learners and put them all in one class? Surely that makes it easier. I had to explain that you can get a group of children who have all got autism, but they're still individuals. They will still have individual needs. Promoting and embracing neurodiversity, and the difficulty of identifying organisations to support a whole child approach, rather than just focusing either on the well-being or the academic. They should go hand in hand. Identifying organisations with a track record. We've heard about knowledge of parents and being able to provide knowledge so that they know what decisions they can make, but also identifying a consistent solution, whether it be, as I say, an education that is accessed from a city or a rural area. Next slide, please. So what is empowerment? We've heard one definition of it. At a basic level, the term empowerment simply means becoming more powerful. Personal empowerment, therefore, means taking control of a situation and not allowing others to control it for you. And I think what we found from the first speaker is, with that knowledge, you can take control, help to develop your child. It was an incredibly inspiring story. Next slide, please. So what's needed to empower parents? A specific goal is always going to be key, whether that be education in the home, education in a physical school setting, increasing knowledge, understanding what's available, what the challenges are, and what the barriers or the obstacles are that might stop that access to education. We need to ensure that parents have confidence in their decision, making a good choice or a bad choice. As a parent, you always worry about doing the best thing for your child. Having that confidence that it is the right decision in whatever form it takes is going to be key. And skills to be able to understand and support. It's, for me, during COVID and looking at homeschooling, we're at a point where parents should be allowed to be parents rather than teachers, being able to support their child from there. But we should also have the ability to see impact and the progress that's related to that decision of the education that was put in place, and also ultimately have an end goal, which goes back to a child having aspirations and knowing where they want to head, whether that be higher education, employment, whatever it might be. Next slide, please. So how does this relate to online and remote learning? So parents have a choice in which school their child will attend. We work with many schools and many parents, and what we look for is a complementary approach to learning. So we work with schools where we support them in transitioning students and children back into school, but also we can take the education into the home as well. There's options as to where a child can access education. There's options relating to curriculum. We understand that not all children will be able to undertake 6, 7, 8, 9 subjects. So let's find a curriculum and an education offer that is appropriate to the needs of that child, whether it be starting with 1 or 2 subjects and then building up from there. Choices between purely academic and whole child development, and options between long and short-term support. It's all very much about what the child needs rather than what the expectation might be in terms of what is the norm. And parents also have choices about what role they wish to play in the support of their child, whether it be there from a just purely a family basis or a support basis, or whether they do want to be more involved in the academic element. Next slide, please. So how does Nissai empower parents? If we go back to the initial points or the earlier points where we're looking at a specific goal, very much about identifying the most appropriate educational experience for a parent's child. Considerations around quality assurance, support, and the curriculum which would be accessed. Increasing the parents' knowledge through awareness sessions. We spend a lot of our time imparting knowledge on curriculum, well-being support, and whole child development. When we look at the confidence in the decision, we support parents in that decision, and where there are questions, we have local support teams. We have a teaching centre in Brunei. We have a customer and student support team based in Vietnam, who are there to help with any questions that might be based around the child's need or child's progress. When we look at skills to be able to understand and support, we provide documentation and support from, say, the regional teams, and the ability to see impact and progress of the decision comes in the form of terminal reports, which we provide. So at any point, a parent will be able to see the progress which their child's making. And as I say, the end goal, where they're going to be, yes, we need to look at the here and now, but education is about a long-term journey that students and a parent's child will be on. Next slide, please. So how we support learners with SEN. Next slide. So where we look at the 4 key areas of special education needs, if we look at communication, interaction, Nissai provide lessons with no webcams. So this removes the anxiety associated with face-to-face. We have various communication channels that students can use. So where we're looking to increase confidence and self-esteem, students will quite often start with us where they're in a class with other students, but they'll use a private chat or maybe use symbols to interact and engage within the lesson, but then they progress onto public chats and microphone. We have measurable progress through those channels, and this then focuses on the development of soft skills, and anonymity within the class removes the anxiety of engaging with peers. All our lessons are timetabled based on ability rather than age. So that first line differentiation and working at similar levels immediately starts to put everybody on a level playing field. Where we look at cognition and learning, as I say, we have timetables based on ability. We have an offer to support low levels of English, and where we have recordings, students are able to go back and review topics as they were taught, either on the same day, same week, or later in the academic year. Next slide, please. Where we look at social, emotional, and mental health, shorter lessons to support learners with attention deficit. Our lessons tend to be 30 minutes in duration. That's just about long enough for learners to be able to access, but we found that the progress learners make in shorter lessons is far greater than sitting somebody there and trying to teach them for 45 minutes to an hour. Smaller class sizes are there to support anxiety, and where we've heard about sensitivity to noise and distraction, the smaller classes definitely help with that, and with mics muted, there's not a lot of noise going on. Private chat helps those with lack of confidence in the subject, but still allows them to interact within the lesson, and the recorded lessons allow the learners to recap. The key bit here is socialization in a safe environment. Any parent will want their child to be safe and safe online, and everything that goes through the virtual academy is moderated, including the social aspect through Nissai clubs and societies. And then finally, we look at those with physical and sensory, so less noise interaction and distraction due to microphone controls, but also text chats as well. Next slide, please. So just wanted to finish off with one of our case studies, who was a young lady who'd been attending a medical needs school. I supported her through the transition from year 11, so after she'd done her one lot of qualifications, into post 16. She was struggling with autism and severe social anxiety, and I remember going out and meeting her for the first time, and she spent the whole hour just looking at the carpet. She was listening, she was taking it in, but wouldn't really engage. She couldn't attend college, would only speak to immediate family members. After a period of time with us, she achieved her qualifications. She went on to college. She took a video production course and went from someone who wasn't leaving, or was only leaving the home for very short periods of time, to someone who traveled to Germany, who filmed a short film on the refugee crisis over there, and that was award-winning. She's now at university with a life in front of her, and I think this is testament to her and the commitment that she gave to us, but also I think it just shows and reinforces how online, in the right delivery method, can really support students, but also their parents as well. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening, and I'm sure if there's been any questions come through, we'll be happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lester. We have heard how Nissai aligned their mission to deliver education to learners worldwide remotely, and also reaching out to those in needs. Before we move on to the question and answer session, we have a special slot from Nissai with the title Parental choice, inclusive education in your home. Stay tuned. We will hear from Nissai how education services are provided via online or remote learning to learners with disabilities worldwide. Now, may I please welcome again Mr. Lester to facilitate this session.
Thank you very much. Right, is it possible for me to share my screen for one moment?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, wonderful.
We have
So-
around 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll keep it nice and short.
Thank you.
So what I'd like to do is just run through the Virtual Academy and just give you a bit more background. What we have got, if there are any questions, we do have the organisation I mentioned earlier, Gemma Learning, who are based in Jakarta, support learners with hearing impairment and additional needs, and they've been doing that since 2013, so we have representation from there. If there's any questions that relate to students or parents, we have, I believe, one of our students from Vietnam, a very inspiring young man called Frankie, who joined Nissai back in September 2020. And is doing qualifications with us now, I believe, with a favoritism for English and economics. And if there's any questions for a parent, I know Frankie's mother is with us today as well. And we've also got colleagues from our international team, so if there's any questions coming through, they'll be able to answer that as well. I've covered a number of aspects about Nissai and empowering impairments. What we have here is the Nissai Virtual Academy, and when I was talking about the holistic approach, I think it's really important to understand what what a student gets from Nissai, how they access lessons, but also how we engage them in education. I think the key elements to what we do, and a lot of the reason why schools and parents like Nissai, is the structured nature of what we do. So all our lessons are timetabled, especially for those with certain special needs. That requirement for structure in the day is absolutely key. Having that consistency, having that routine on an ongoing basis is always going to be important. So, because parents know when a child will be accessing their lessons, or with a school who provide Nissai to their learners, we're able to report back in terms of not just attendance, but also the contribution within the lesson. Our teachers are trained to be able to identify engagement, and a lot of their planning is based around this two-way interaction between the student and the teacher. I think it's really important where children are either accessing school or accessing school on a part-time basis, or potentially who are accessing from home. The long-term aim is for a child to re-engage back into education or go onto the workplace. So we have structured ways of delivering our courses. There is the online live element. We also have those self-paced activities which are based around independent learning, but also homework as well. And where the homework comes into this is very much towards us being able to track and monitor the progress which learners are making. As with any school, and as a parent, you want to know that your child's developing. and progressing at the right pace and to the right level. So the assignments and the homework which we offer is part of a wider strategy to track that progress. So we do a lot of formative assessment and questioning within the classroom, but also formal assessment on a 6-weekly basis. So we are very much focused on providing an experience which mirrors to a certain extent what a school does, and provides that level of structure, but just providing it in possibly a different way, or maybe a more gentle way, or with classes of smaller numbers, a more appropriate way. But at the end of the day, the focus is always going to be on impact. It's always going to be on outcomes. We talk very much about the social aspect and this holistic approach to education, and education extends beyond just the classroom. So we have resources available to support well-being, so health, community, and this is also focused on safety, but also their future. So options at 16, 18, whether they're going on to further or higher education or moving into the workplace. As mentioned previously, COVID has created a number of issues and challenges for children to socialise with their peers. So our clubs and societies are there to encourage learners to take part in activities outside of the classroom. They make friends, but what we find with the virtual academy and in this case the chill out zone is the environment needs to be safe, it needs to be secure, and parents need to have the confidence that their child is involved with activities that are monitored, moderated. But to give everyone an idea, the students who we tend to work with will be aged anywhere from upper primary through to upper secondary. We have many learners joining us who are working at above age appropriate levels. So going back to the comment earlier about timetabling based on ability rather than age, by doing it that way, we have young people and children age maybe 8 or 9 who are doing curriculum that is geared towards those who are age 14, 15. What this then does is makes the educational offer the most appropriate and relevant that it can be. If we were to teach at age appropriate levels in some cases, that's when our learners and students possibly disengage because the work is too easy. So it's very much again about stretching, challenging our students and making sure that they can be the best that they can be. But as well as the standard and core subjects are lower years, we are also a Cambridge International approved online school. We're one of a very, very small number. And what that allows us to do is provide an international curriculum based on UK teaching standards to provide the best delivery method and curriculum that we can based on quality teaching, quality content, but all the time working towards progressing the student, engaging the student, and developing core skills, not just in knowledge, but also in competency, supporting in the development of communication skills, critical thinking skills, creativity, and collaborating with each other. And these are 4 key areas which we encourage with our learners, because knowledge will go so far, but having the skills to be able to put that into practice will help learners develop, progress, and follow their aspirations. I think just as a final point, and I know we're quite tight on time.
Okay.
I think for me, it's really important that we're involved with the SEN agenda across the wider ASEAN region. I think it is quite clear that there needs to be as much knowledge and support out there for parents, but I think also the encouraging thing for me is that we're hearing more and more from schools who are looking to really be proactive at supporting children with SEN. And I think we have a very important part, and we all have a very important part to play in that. So thank you very much. Just a short, very quick overview there, but very happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lester. When we talk about online learning, to really understand how it works, it is always best to see the platform in person. Thank you for sharing with us. I'm sure all of us now understand better how remote learning could also be one of the solutions to the learning of our children with special needs. To recap, we have had a very insightful sharing session by all three speakers. We had the viewpoint of parents. We also have heard the points from the Ministry of Education, and we have also listened to the sharing from our education partners. We will now move on to the question and answer session. So I will read some of the burning questions selected from either the Facebook, YouTube, and our platform. So the first question is addressed to Madam Siti Shahida from Sokim Au from YouTube. The question is, do you also set out any activities in the routine schedule to build social interaction with Ryan's sibling, or just him alone during the activities most of the time at home? Ms. Siti Shahida, can you please answer the question?
Okay, all right. So most of the time, Ryan and his brother will do most of the activities. So the independent side only when he is doing his schoolwork or worksheet that are given by me or the school. Okay, for instance, like for the social interaction, usually we will have the people play, like wheelbarrow, messy play. So this will enhance their turn-taking skills and improve communication skills by asking for a toy from his brother. Okay, like the previous slide, I also include the activities that they did together, like social life skill, like watering the plant, washing the car, musical chairs. So this one is increasing the social skill at home. So for the time being, we are controlling our movement and to meet the other kids. So there's some activities that Ryan do with his brother. There are some activities like schoolwork, he do it himself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shahida. Okay, the next question is addressed to Dr. Kanid from our followers from YouTube. Has UDL been introduced to the teacher training and curriculum development of MOE Thailand? So can you share your thoughts on this? Are you still muted, Dr. Kanid?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, the question asking about the UDL, right? So yeah, it's introduced to the teacher training and program, particularly in our divisions and our department. But the issue that I mentioned in my talk, it's in general. So in the particular platform. So UDL has been implemented and integrated into the content, but in general platform. So I think we are not, fully having the good enough online platform that integrated UDL principles. So I would say, based on my experience, so most of the online platform or website is just partially accessible. So even though we try our best to, encourage people to apply the UDL, it's still in progress.
Thank you. We hope for the best for our teachers. Okay, next question, perhaps the last question since we are running out of time, addressed to Mr. Lester. What has the UK Ministry of Education framework outlined for ASD, autism spectrum disorder kids, especially those who have completed their primary education?
Back in the UK, right, so over in the UK, we had an SEN Code of Practice which went through in 2014. There have been ongoing changes and additions to that, and it's not specific to necessarily autism. It's the wider SEN agenda. I think where there have been changes, especially at primary, is I think we are getting better at earlier diagnosis. I think it's very much about, it's about finding the right offer and the right education experience. So it could be that they're in school, and a mainstream school. There has been a shift and a move away from special schools, which we have in the UK, and there is this real focus on trying to keep children with special education needs in the mainstream environment, because they benefit them from the socialization. But on top of that, having maybe a complementary or an alternative education that can be accessed on site at school. So it's the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. For those who have further questions, you can contact Nissai or our speakers. We have shared with them the email address. Okay. That was our last question for the session. Again, thank you to all the audience for your kind attention and participation. Yang Bahagia Datuk, Professor, Doctor, ladies and gentlemen, I have now completed my duty as the moderator. My sincere thanks to all speakers for their fruitful sharing and sincere apologies for any shortcoming. I will now hand over the session to our MC for the next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zulkarnain. You did a great job. And thank you to our distinguished speakers for today's insightful session. And thank you to the active participants on Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook for your words of encouragement, for your amazing support, and for all of the wonderful questions. But sadly, time definitely flies so fast when you're having so much fun. Now it is an honor to invite the Deputy Director of SIMUSEN, who have been providing his full support for this webinar. Thank you, Dr. Azlis, for your wonderful contribution of ideas and knowledge and for making this webinar a success. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to invite Dr. Muhammad Azlis to deliver his closing remarks. Please welcome Dr. Azlis. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ms. MC. SIMUSEN Organizing Committee, our speakers for today, Mr. David Lester, Group Learning Services, Nissai Group, United Kingdom, Dr. Kanit Pamani, Bureau of Special Education, Basic Education Commission, Ministry of Education Thailand, and Mr. and Madam Siti Shahidah binti Saleh, President, Parents and Interventionist Society, PB. And to all teachers, parents, guardians, NGOs, and institutions from SIMEO member countries. Let me begin by thanking all of you for your efforts to attend today's webinar. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here with everyone today. Alhamdulillah, we have reached the end of the webinar. In accordance with SIMEO SEN's objective, which is to promote teachers' capacity building, increase awareness, and foster collaborative efforts among countries, institutions, and non-profit organizations for the benefit of the special education community. This time around, SIMEO SEN has initiated a webinar to discuss the current issue, which is remote learning. Due to the current pandemic, I hope this webinar will benefit all parents, guardians, and teachers in providing knowledge and insight on empowering remote learning, especially for students with disabilities. Besides, these inputs will also help in giving parents ideas to be more engaged in their children's remote learning. I believe parents' involvement in the remote learning process will help in increasing the children's motivation during the remote learning process. Ladies and gentlemen, on another note, on behalf of SIMEO SEN, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to Nissai Group for their sponsorship of today's webinar. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Nissai Group. Last but not least, I would like to thank all speakers for their dedication and efforts in sharing their knowledge on parent empowerment in remote learning. Before I end my speech, I am happy to share that we have already started our pre-conference event for the 4th ICSE 2021. For those who are already registered in our conference, feel free to browse through all contents and materials in the conference platform and get engaged with the presenters, exhibitors, and participants from all over the world. Thank you for your time, and I wish all of you a pleasant day. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Azlis. We have come to an end of our webinar. Please be reminded that the link to the evaluation form is now shared in the chat box for you to fill out, and you have approximately 2 hours from now to do so. Only when the evaluation form is completed, you will receive your certificate of participation within 14 working days. Do follow us on our social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube for more updates on our upcoming webinars. Again, thank you to Dr. Hanani, Dr. Azlis, Monisha, all of our speakers, our moderator, and of course to all of you here from Malaysia, Philippines, Pakistan, UK, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Nepal, India, all around the world. Thank you so much for joining us. And also thanks to all these amazing group of people who have been working so hard for this event, from the Training and Consultation Division, as well as from the Strategy and Communication Unit. Thank you everyone for your amazing effort. Now, before we close the session, it is an honor to invite the Director of SIMEO SEN, Dr. Hajah Hanani Hararasid, to give away the certificate of appreciation to all of our speakers for today. We shall start with Madam Shahida. Madam, a few words from you, please. Madam, you're still muted. Your microphone.
All right. First of all, thanks to SIMEO SEN for this opportunity. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight. Thank you so much. And please send our love to Ryan.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, next, Dr. Hajah Hanani to give away the certificate to Dr. Kanit Pamani. Dr. Kanit, a few words from you, please.
Yes, thank you, Simil-sen, for having me today. And as a teachers, as educators, I think it's our commitment to support students with disability to get successful. And don't forget to encourage parents to acknowledge their roles and responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Dr. Khanit. And of course, to Mr. David Lester, please welcome Mr. Lester to receive your certificate of appreciation. Mr. Lester, a few words from you, please.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say it's been a great pleasure being involved in the session today. Nissai are very proud to be able to support the conference and the session. And I think that the overriding element to take away from this is that there are quite clearly some very strong shared goals between Semio and the other speakers. I think jointly there's a lot that we can do. So thank you for organising this.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. We're so glad to have you on board. Now, parent empowerment is an important component of child and family-centered care. Start with building good communication, provide support and information, build knowledge, and be open to working in partnership. And also to pay particular attention to the individual and cultural needs of children with disabilities and their families. With that, thank you for joining us. Stay safe and take good care, everyone. Thank you. Please be reminded that the evaluation link is currently open and you are given until 2:30 p.m. Malaysia time for you to access the link. I would like to also remind you that only participants who fill out and completed the evaluation form will be granted with the certificate of participation. If you have any inquiries, please email us at webinar@simiosen.org and we will be more than glad to attend to any of your questions and inquiries. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe and take good care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's time to open our eyes to a bright and promising future. We'll rise to the call of the times and create a stronger tomorrow. Let's start to make a difference, teaching everyone to learn through science, health and technology. We will share our expertise by promoting knowledge and policies. We can build a better world. Let us take a step for our vision so bold, bringing future for the people to grow in a life filled with happiness and green. Here at Simio, building the future is our legacy. We'll achieve our goals through partnership, creating opportunities. By working hand in hand, we can accomplish all